For joining us here on News 19. I'm Chief Meteorologist Efra DeFonte, and you can see there's quite a bit of snow that's falling now. The primary areas are going to be portions of the Midlands, the PD, as well as into the upstate. The overall scope that we're looking at, as far as the timetable, snow's already falling now in some areas and will continue considerably around 2 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now, most areas, this has now been updated just a little bit. Everyone's going to see snow. We could see accumulations on the very low end, maybe up to about ½ an inch of snowfall in the Midlands, but we could see totals that could be approaching, if not a little bit over 2.5 inches. Now, keep in mind that once it starts accumulating, even though a lot of the roads are being treated, most of the secondary and tertiary roads, and especially areas that usually are not treated, could be slick and hazardous as we get to the late hours tonight and especially overnight and into tomorrow morning. Now, the one thing we're not for sure still is how much snow accumulation we're going to get. We have a general idea of how much we may see, and what are the highest local amounts that we'll see as far as the snowfall. Well, all indications right now, everybody in the Midlands is start seeing some amount of snowfall come down. It's just a question of how much and who's going to get the biggest total. Winter storm warnings are going to continue for all of our counties along and to the east of I-20. I'll update that in a moment, but the winter storm warning does cover both the Midlands, the Grand Strand, the PD, the CSRA, and small portions of the upstate, but pretty much all of the Piedmont. For here in the Midlands, we have the winter storm warning. In fact, if you give me just a moment, I'll update that. It's a winter storm warning for the counties of Lexington, Richland, Lee, Sumter, Clarendon, Calhoun, and Orangeburg County. That's in effect right now until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Then we have winter weather advisories, and that's going to be for the counties of Fairfield, Kershaw, Newberry, and Saluda, and Edgefield counties. The winter weather advisory is that there's a possibility that we could see conservatively anywhere from a trace to possibly all the way up to just under an inch of snow. All the other counties that are brilliantly lit in pink, well, those are the locations that could get upwards of 2 inches of total snow. Now, the dynamics right now that's set up is that this is all going to be snow. We're not looking at any really possibility of freezing rain, sleet, or even rain itself. But the temperatures are really the biggest factor, because pretty much overnight into at least the mid-morning hours, the temperatures are going to drop down anywhere for the mid-teens to near 20 degrees. Wind chills still could be expected over 10 degrees above zero. This is no doubt easily going to be able to freeze our water line. So if you haven't started it yet, and you really should, start dripping your faucets, hot and cold water, drip them. Honestly, what I have done is that I've turned on all my faucets. Instead of just a little bit of a drip, I kind of have a little bit of a fast drip. Bottom line is that I don't want any of my water lines to freeze in my house. So take proactive measures at this time. Now, with as cold as it's going to be, the National Weather Service statewide has continued the cold weather advisory until tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And again, the temperatures are going to be well below freezing, with wind chills very likely anywhere from, on the low end, 10 to 15 degrees above zero at its coldest. And that could be very likely sometime between 2 and 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. That's why all of our middling communities, Kershaw, Lee, Sumter, Clarendon, Calhoun, Orangeburg, Lexington, Richland, Kershaw, Fairfield, Newberry, Saluda, Edgefield, Aiken, Barnwell, Bamberg counties, everybody is going to be dealing with these cold temperatures. The overall scope right now throughout the southeast, with the exception of a small portion of western and northern Louisiana, from Texas all the way through the Pine Belt, and then getting into areas of northern Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas, everybody's either have a winter weather advisory for the possibility of maybe some accumulating snow, all the way to the winter storm warning. And you can see the line of rainfall. It's all the way out along east side of Florida through the Florida Central Basin, and then well off the coast of the Central Gulf South. Everybody else is dealing with the snow. So basically everything inland from the Mississippi Delta all the way through the Carolinas, the snow is coming down. Our snow right now, it's light to moderate. The moderate snow is just getting to areas of the upstate. But pretty much if you drew a line from I-95 and then points west, many areas, the snow is coming down. The air is very dry though, so even though this is depicting a lot of snow, the snow, by the time it gets down to lower elevations, about 2,000 to 3,000 feet, it's evaporating. But that evaporation builds up a cold pool of air, and that's going to allow any other precipitation to come in to not only fall to the ground, but stick. This is what we're expecting. As we go through the course of the afternoon into the early evening, the snow will continue statewide with the exception of far northwestern portions of the upstate. The snow will continue, but as we get into the late evening, it starts pushing up more towards the south and east, ending it for the northwest Midlands. And then as we get towards about 2 o'clock in the morning, now it's pushed off and it's mainly along the coast. And then by daybreak, all the snow is done, and then the skies will start to clear for most of the state. Now, the biggest total of snowfall we're expecting is pretty much going to be east of I-95 or all along the South Carolina shores into well inland. They could see anywhere on the low end 5 to 6 inches of snow. When you're talking about the beach, wait a minute, should we see more in the upstate? The entire line is going to be more concentrated along and then to the east of I-20, but there's so much moisture in the atmosphere that all of this on a regular January, that's probably going to be cold rain. But with that cold air pool already stuck all over the Palmetto State, that's going to be in the form of snow. Locally here, what we're expecting is that we'll start seeing the snow in earnest start to come down. We'll see quite a bit of it start to fall down, but not accumulate yet. So as we go into the early evening, that's when we'll start seeing the snow start picking up, and somewhere between 5 to 7 tonight, we'll start seeing the snow start to accumulate, first on the grasses and perhaps on the roads. But watch, by the time we get to about 11 o'clock, the northwest Midlands are done. By the time we get to midnight, it's now pushing out towards the east, and by 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, that's it. Snow is done, and the skies will start clearing before daybreak in many areas of the Midlands. So this is going to be a short time event. The computer models have been increasing. I figured that it would. But again, even though these totals don't take that total amount to fruition, that's not going to be the case for most areas. Far northwest Midlands, Saluda, Newberry, as well as Fairfield County, anywhere from maybe a little bit over a trace, so 1/4 of an inch of snow to upwards of maybe an inch of snow. Right along I-20, so Aiken, Lexington, Richland, Kershaw, and at least most of Lee County could see anywhere from upwards of an inch to maybe a little bit over an inch, even though it's showing 1.5 inches. Now, all points that are closer to I-95 and southern portions of 26. So far eastern portions of Lee County, a good portion of Sumter, and then Calhoun, Clarendon, and Orangeburg County could see 2 to possibly maybe up to 2.5 inches of snow. Localized could be more. The one area to watch, so in Orangeburg County, say from Branchville to Bowman to Wetzel to just east of Santee, and then getting to areas of Utah Springs, Holly Hill, and Four Holes, you could have amounts that will be approaching closer to 3 inches. It just depends on if those bands in the low country lift a little bit further north. But again, the concentration of the snow is going to be widespread. The heavier amounts are going to be to the south of I-20. But everyone's going to see snow at one point or another. It's just a question of how much is it going to accumulate. If this whole band moves a little bit further towards I-20, just move all the totals up a little bit more, and then we could definitely see, especially from the crossroads of 26 and 95, heading towards south central Orangeburg, and then into areas along and east of Lake Marion, could easily get up to 3 inches. Is that going to be the case? It's a possibility, but at least we know that we're going to be approaching close to 2 inches. Here's the issue about the snow. The air is already cold, and it's going to stay cold. In the morning, temperatures are going to be, by and large, in the low 20s. There's going to be just enough wind that we're looking at wind chills in the mid-teens. So that's going to be in the morning before daybreak. This is well after the snow is done. So very likely anything that's on the ground, especially in grassy areas, anything accumulated is going to stick. And other than sunshine that we're expecting for tomorrow, that's probably be the only chance that we're going to have any of this melt, because we're talking about afternoon temperatures late in the afternoon, probably around 2 to 4 o'clock. Air temperatures will be just above freezing by only a few degrees, and even with a little bit of wind, you're talking about wind chills that are going to be at, close to, if not below freezing. So anything that starts to melt, well, the downside is that it's not going to take that long for it to freeze as we go into Wednesday night, because the temperatures are really not going to get up that high. Are we expecting any kind of like mix of freezing rain or rain that'll refreeze? No. Air is too dry, air is too cold that it's just going to stick as snow. And then whatever doesn't melt is just going to stay as snow on the ground. I do expect that a lot of us who do have accumulations, because of how cold the air is going to be going into Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday night, that all of this stuff is pretty much going to still be on the ground. So again, snow is continuing through a good portion of Georgia, southern Alabama. It's now moving into South Carolina. Concentration is going to be between I-25 and then points west to I-20 and points north. This snow will continue, and the timetable still are again looking at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And as this continues, the winter storm warnings continue for all the counties in South Carolina and the Midlands, along and to the south of I-20, all the way to the South Carolina shores. And then the winter weather advisory, pretty much all of our counties north of I-20 to the PD and the upstate. And this snow will continue. And if you've never seen snow in South Carolina, well, $2 will get you 10 that there is going to be a chance sometime over the course of the next 12 hours that you will see snow. We're going to continue to update all of the weather. Our weather team is here, and we're going to be right through the night. So keep it here on News 19. We'll keep you advised.